Hi, my name is Rachel Thompson. I'm a longtime member of the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group. I'm here on behalf of the Easton Book Fair to share a short craft talk with you regarding story structure. I'm a published author of science fiction, fantasy, social satire, historical fiction, nonfiction, freelance journalism, and I do cartoons. This is a big topic. It's deep and it's wide. There are many volumes written on the concepts and the ideas around story structure. So I would first encourage any person, whether an experienced writer or one who wants to write and understand stories, is to wrap your head around the ideas of story structure. Some of the books out there, many books on the topic, all go at it from a different perspective. They may call various aspects of structure different words, but it all sort of amounts to the same thing. And I've read a great many books on the craft of writing, and almost every one of them comes to the same sorts of conclusions, although by a different name. I will mention here one of my favorite books is by Larry Brooks. It's called Story Engineering. I have no association with Larry Brooks other than his book is excellent and I've learned a lot from it. Also, a book called Save the Cat is very well regarded among many writers. So I encourage you to read and study as many craft books as you can and look at these ideas. They're the same ideas, but under different names. Now, story structure happens to be a very long and complicated topic, but at its very core, it's quite simple indeed. Stories are ingrained into us. Carl Jung, the psychiatrist, first touched upon the idea of archetypal characters and archetypal stories. Later on, Joseph Campbell defined the concept of archetypes and applied it more in fiction. A great example of that is Star Wars, the first movie from Star Wars. It's well understood that Joseph Campbell and the makers of Star Wars were close and that they borrowed his ideas. His idea primarily being the hero's journey, and the hero's journey itself is one type of structure that almost all stories follow in one way or another. So let me get into a little bit more generalities about story structure. Hopefully you'll encourage you to look further into it. Story structure is story in a sense. If there's no structure, there's no story. Because as Jung pointed out and many others, we are wired innately to understand and gravitate to stories. Human beings have been telling each other stories since the beginning of language, probably. And as such, we all have a natural inclination towards story. We're all ingrained to receive and hear stories. But few of us really understand that there is a structure behind the actual story. Story structure is universal. There's no such thing of a story that has no structure. If you have no structure, you have no story. Just in the same way of saying, if there is no conflict, there is no story. And that in itself is a concept of story structure. And briefly stated, what does it look like? You have a character. A character has a problem. The character cannot overcome that, cannot go backwards. They cannot run away from this problem. They have to face this problem. So they leave and they go and they chase down their problem. And eventually, they get past all the hard parts and confront the antagonist or confront the real story problem. Whereby, at that point, you win or lose. You faced up. And then after that point is the that is the climax, is the resolution of the story, generally speaking. This so-called formula, or these series of events, is in every story, no matter whether it's romance, science fiction, a Western. You always have the same thing. You have a character, the character has a problem. It's a problem the character can't run away from. The character goes on to struggle against the problem, and either the character solves the problem or not. Now, as far as how this works in actuality and how each book is different, how this is conveyed, that's perfectly fine. The basic elements are usually there. If one or two of these elements is missing, it makes for a story that doesn't work. We're psychologically ingrained to sense these things, feel these things, and understand them instinctively. So, one of the basis of stories and story structure is the idea of an archetype. Psychology sees an archetype as a naturally ingrained motif of experience through patterns and thought patterns. Story instincts, we all know instinctively a story when we see it, and we all gravitate to stories. We all are wired to hear and share stories. Archetype characters are the universal players in the stories we share. The villain, the good guy, and many more, such as the trickster, to use Joseph Campbell's language, or the red herring, or the false lead. These are all aspects of story structure which have been repeated ad nauseum throughout time. And it's interesting to note that the concept of structure itself, as far as plot is concerned, many people have put a lot of thought to it, and the best number that I've heard is that there are only 360 known plots in existence. Every story ever told on the earth is one of 360 plots. And what a plot is an expression of how the character solves her or his problem. Plot itself is not structure. Plot is a device which organizes the structure. Structure has to be there. Otherwise, you don't have a story. What you have is a series of events where one thing happens, and the next thing happens, and the next thing happens. That's not a story. So every story contains a certain structural element which we humans respond to. If these elements are missing, the story doesn't work. It drags, or it feels incomplete. It doesn't hold the reader's attention or interest. Each is a specific function we humans are tuned for. Plot structure and character arc are learning curves, as learning curves are innate, because a character's arc is the character learning and growing, whereas plot structure is a sense, or is the series of events that takes place which the character will respond to. How that character responds is the story arc. But this creates some confusion. A lot of seat of the pants writers, known as pantsters, also known as discovery writers, seem to balk at the idea of structure. They often say, but I'm a seat of a pants writer. Won't that impede my creativity? The answer is no. Understanding structure and how structure works actually enhances your creativity. It gives you a basis to work from. If you're a person that wants to write by the seat of your pants, have at it. But if you understand and know what has to or should happen in order for a story to function properly, it naturally becomes ingrained in you. Writers like Stephen King, for example, he has a natural ability to just know when the first plot point comes, when the second plot point comes, where the midpoint is, and all of these things. These are just natural to his ability. He doesn't think about it, it comes out of him. He's a discovery writer, he just writes. Very few of us can do that. And those who do usually run into big problems. A lot of rewriting and a lot of trying to figure out what doesn't work and why. Larry Brooks said, and I'll paraphrase him, that discovery writing is a process whereby the writer is looking for the structure. And a lot of us will write and write and write until we stumble into it. And once we stumble into it, the story works. So, I strongly suggest to pants writers, seat of the pants writers, that they do actually look at structure, study structure, understand what it is. Load up your right side of your brain, or the left side of the brain, I should say, and just turn the right side loose and write. When you go to editing, you'll have a better understanding of what you need to do to make your story work. So in brief, I'll just mention a few of the story structure tent poles that hold the story up. And I'm not going to go too much into detail about what they are. I'll leave it up to you to look into this and to look these terms up and understand how these terms work, because in this short video, I do not have time to go into the volumes of information that surrounds this. But essentially, every story works the same way. You have a character, a protagonist. The protagonist has a problem they cannot avoid. So the first plot point is when the protagonist crosses the threshold or moves towards solving the problem and cannot go back the other way. This has been called many things. It's often said to be the inciting incident, but the inciting incident isn't necessarily what drives somebody to take action. An inciting incident can lead someone to the first plot point. The first plot point is the character making a decision or being forced out of their comfort zone and crushing that threshold. In Thelma and Louise, for example, the guy getting shot is an event that starts a chain reaction. But the actual first plot point is Thelma and Louise deciding to run. That's when everything turns. The second plot point, the midpoint, and all the other points also have specific functions. And if they aren't placed within the story context, within a certain window, it's going to throw the reader out of the story. So I'm going to stop there because this is a topic I could speak on for hours on end. It's very simple in concept. The details of how it does and can work, it will require you to study this aspect of it. And I hope that you do. And I'll end here, and I hope you come and visit the Greater Lehigh Valley Writers Group. Check out our website at, I got to look at it because I always get the letters confused, glvwg.org. Thanks very much for your attention, and I hope to see you sometime in a bookstore.